Are you looking for the best 2024 NFL bets around? Well, stick around. I think you'll like what we have in store for you in this week's episode of the IDP Plus Defensive Props Podcast. Back to week 4 of the IDP Plus Defensive Props Podcast. Johnny and I have been here each and every week giving you guys good tackle prop plays for each week of the NFL season. You can find our handles here below our names for those of you that are watching. For those of you listening, I'm at AxemanIDP on Twitter, and Johnny is at JohnnyFreakinF1. Go ahead and follow us. Shoot us a DM, questions. Let's just talk football, whatever you like. But we're going to jump right into our picks this week. Johnny actually went perfect last week with a solid 4 for 4. So we're going to kind of hope we can carry off that momentum and kind of stay positive here and keep you all profitable. So we're going to jump right in, and I'm going to let Johnny start it off here with his first pick of week 4.
All right. So with this first pick, we got a lot of big IDP news this week. One of them being that Alex Singleton is no longer available for the season. Tore an ACL, actually stayed in the game, so kudos to him. But a guy who I've been with warm feelings salivating over going to Denver, and that's Cody Barton. He's going to be the green dot linebacker. Not going to say he's going to play 100% of snaps, but usually when you deem the green dot, that person's playing 90 or more snaps. So that was Cody Barton's biggest bugaboo, was not getting that mark. I thought he was going to play more snaps. So he kind of fizzled early on, but now with Singleton out, I think Cody Barton, this is going to be his week and his rest of the year. So right now, Vegas isn't too high on him because we haven't seen him in that starting role. So it's a little bit conservative. I'm looking specifically at his assists, right? So when we look at the last 2 games, Cody Barton, he was playing in week 3 this past week, 54%. In week 2, he was playing 71%. Both of those games, he hit 4 assists. Actually, week 2, he had 7 total combined tackles. Last week against Tampa Bay, only had 4 total and 4 assists. So not really looking at combined tackles here. I think he is a good marker. He is at 7.5 combined tackles, and that's juice odds. That's plus 115. But I think I'm going to stay safer here and just go over 2.5 assists for minus 120. So I think this is a safe play. I think Cody Barton's going to play upwards of 90%. So the snap share is going up. He already did it the last 2 weeks. He had 4 assisted tackles the last 2 weeks. So let's keep rolling with this momentum. Cody Barton's going to get at least 3 this week. Once again, Cody Barton over 2.5 assists for minus 120 for my first bet.
Solid, dude. Full-time player, guy going to be on the field 90% of the snaps or more. And historically, he's not been a great PFF grader. A lot of people knock him for that. And in real NFL football, I guess he's not the greatest. But we're not necessarily worried about being a great PFF grader. All we care about is the tackles, and this guy is a tackler. I think last year he had over 130 tackles. Coming from a guy who grades terribly, according to PFF, those are pretty good numbers when you're talking about placing money on bets and fantasy production as well. So I really like Cody Barton, especially to smash this 2.5 assisted tackle mark. That's almost laughable considering the guy was averaging about 8 tackles a game last year. So with the green dot and probably the most lucrative role he could possibly find himself in Denver, I think he even plays the Jets this week. Is that right? The Jets also run the ball a bunch. They favor the opposing linebackers. They tend to rack up tackles. So I don't see why Cody Barton couldn't get over this measly 2.5. My first pick this week is going to be for Jahlani Tavai to get over 6.5 combined tackles. This one came in at minus 145. So the books are already kind of onto us, but I feel really good about this. Juwan Bentley is usually the green dot full-time role linebacker for New England, but we saw him go down with a pec injury, I believe, and I don't think he's going to be returning anytime soon. So that leaves Jahlani Tavai to soak up some extra snaps, soak up some extra tackles. with the defensive scheme changes we've seen this year, we've seen a little bit more consistency come to the snap shares of really everybody on this team. And I think in turn, we've also seen production kind of remain a little bit more consistent. Whereas in years past, this New England Patriots defense was notorious for rotating. So you really didn't see many people getting over 80% of the snaps in this week with Juwan Bentley out. I think they're not going to have much choice but to roll out Jahlani Tavai out there for a substantial amount of snaps. And he got 9 tackles last week and got it 8 times. He achieved this mark 8 times last year in what was a rotational role. He probably was playing 60 to 70% of snaps last year and got this mark. So in a full-time role, I really like Jahlani Tavai to hit this over 6.5 tackle mark against San Francisco, a team who is notorious for just running or operating through the run. They establish the run early, week in and week out. That's their bread and butter. That's what they're built for. So you can bet your money they're going to be running the ball about 30 or more times a game. With an offensive line like that, just creating tunnels through the defense, Jordan Mason's going to fall right into Jahlani Tavai's lap at least 7 times in this game. So I really like that pretty low marker at 6.5 for that total tackle mark for Jahlani Tavai. So that'll be my first pick this week. And I'll kick it over here to Johnny to chat about his next pick.
Yeah, I love Tavai, man. I mean, all he's got to do is hit 6.5 or 7 tackles or more. He had 10 last week. Gets an even better matchup this week with San Francisco. Hats off. Love the pick. Absolutely. Moving on, my next pick is going to be not a household name, but in IDP and in the sports books, he should be this week, and that is Christian Izien from Tampa Bay, the Tampa Bay Bucks. I am predicting him to have over 5.5 combined tackles. So not solos, not assists, but put them together, combined tackles, over 5.5 for -154. And my hunch here is because Antoine Winfield, again, has been ruled out. So if Winfield was playing, this would be out the window, but he is out already. So this is a starting caliber player, played at 100% of snaps week 2, and then 93 in week 3. So consider him basically a full-time player. I'm not exactly sure that 7%. Maybe he had a little injury. Maybe there were different alignment on the field. So he is indeed a full-time player. In those 2 full-time games, week 2, when he came in for injury for Winfield, he had 10 combined tackles. Then looking at last week, week 3, he had 6 solos and 2 assists. So that makes good for 8. So let's keep looking for 3 for 3 here. Christian Izien, all he has to get is 6. And, he's hit that and then some in these last 2 weeks. So my prediction here, it's a great matchup against Philly. I would call it a top 5, matchup. I think it is. So Izien, right time, right place. Let's continue to make this 3 for 3 and give me, again, over 5.5 tackles at -154.
Yeah, this Philly offense is just coached well. So even though they might be down a couple of guys, they're still going to run pretty efficiently no matter what. And they just have Saquon Barkley to really set the tone. So Christian Izien playing for Antoine Winfield, obviously he's getting a lot of box snaps. He's going to see a lot of Saquon, and I'm sure he's going to be, playing a little bit deep as well and maybe chasing some pass catchers. So and filling in with 18 tackles in the last couple of weeks for Antoine Winfield, it seems like you can almost insert Winfield's production straight into Izien. So I like this matchup for Izien to hit over 5.5. I think that's money in the bank for a guy in this position playing this kind of role, especially with the kind of snaps that he's seeing. My next pick here is going to be Devondre Campbell to hit under 7.5 combined tackles. This was on the books at -125. And let's just talk about Devondre Campbell a little bit. In Green Bay, he was, I think, even as soon as last year, is kind of when we started to see things trickle off. I think he might have had a decent start to the season, but he kind of lost his consistency. Whereas in years prior, when he was before the Quay Walker days, I really like Campbell. He's a pretty good stud. You can almost bank on him to get 7, 8 or more tackles a week, but we just since Quay Walker's entered the league, kind of pushed him out of Green Bay, and he just kind of got honestly was in it, and he got picked up by the 49ers. That's a great position you want to see for a guy like him to kind of bounce back at his age. But unfortunately, we haven't seen this level of production from him this year so far. He's not had maybe the best matchups, but even a guy that you're wanting to hit this 8 tackle mark, in my eyes, I think he should have done it by now if this is something that I think he's going to do, even in a fairly good matchup. So far, he's had 5 tackles in each of the first 3 games. He hasn't even sniffed 8. He's been 3 below the mark we're trying to get here, and up against the New England Patriots, who are just not able to sustain drives so far this year. I just really particularly like this matchup. If New England, I imagine I can't say this to be a fact, but I would bet money that they're in at least the bottom 10 of the league in just snaps run on offense. They're just 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. They got to run through Ramondre, but if you stuff Ramondre, there's really not a whole lot else they can do. They just can't keep consistently pushing the ball down the field. So, of course, as soon as I say this, you watch. Throw my disclaimer out there. I'm going to call this under on Devondre Campbell, and then Ramondre Stevenson's going to run the ball 25 times, and they're going to have a hell of a game, and they're going to punch the 49ers in the mouth. You watch. But I can't help myself. At 7.5 tackles, I'm even scared to kind of go over on a lot of players. So considering a guy who's never even sniffed it even close this year, I like this under. And John Macri of PFF has this as a kind of a middle of the road matchup in terms of just tackles allowed for New England opponents to the linebacker position. That's kind of been the matchups they've seen all season so far, and he's not like say 5 tackles max. So I think week 1, Jermaine Pratt and Wilson got it. Those are 2 substantially better linebackers. Otherwise, it's really just been the stud main green dot linebackers on each of the last 2 matchups that get this number, and the second linebacker just really doesn't even come close. So I think Fred Warner's the one that probably gets the over here if either one of them does, and I think Devondre Campbell still sits right around that 5 tackle mark this week. So under 7.5 tackles for Devondre Campbell against the New England Patriots this week comes in at minus 125. That's my second play this week. What do you think about that, Johnny?
I know, like you said, man, anything can happen at any given time. But when we look at safe bets, I'm going to call this one pretty safe. I think not only you, me, but the rest of the NFL fans around the world expect this to be a San Francisco led game. And, when that happens, you're just going to run the ball. Jordan Mason, maybe Isaac Guerendo finally gets a little bit more involved. But I do expect them to be up and running the ball. So for me, I mean, I do like Devondre Campbell. I liked him coming into the year. He's just, hasn't hit this mark, and this is a high mark for him. And actually, to your point, Axton, the snaps have gone down. Devondre Campbell started off week 1 at 100%. Week 2, he went down to 94, which isn't substantial. That's okay. But then week 3, the trend continues. He's down to 83% snaps. So I wonder if that trend even further continues. Hopefully you're sitting over there like, hey, keep him down. Hopefully it does. And that's what I'm saying too. So yeah, it's kind of a scary, bad storm there. And I mean, just, 5-5-5 is not 8. So to me, I think history's on our side here, and I think it's a pretty safe pick. So I like that pick a lot. And I'll move into my next one, and that is going to be Vonn Bell. Finally, we get some plus odds here. I had to throw one plus bet in for everybody listening and viewing our show tonight. So Vonn Bell, I have him over 2.5 assists at plus 140. This is, if it was minus 165, I'm not touching it. But, even for being 140, this is a 3 for 3 so far. Vonn Bell has hit this marker. He's been staying very busy. I mean, besides the 2 linebackers there, Pratt and Logan Wilson, I mean, he's their 3rd leading tackler at the safety position. And, I thought Jordan Battle was going to kind of be this guy, but I knew once Battle was out and Vonn Bell was in there, like Vonn Bell's a tackle machine. So I expect him to continue to make good on this. If we look at history, the first 3 weeks, Vonn Bell in week 1 had this 3 assists. Week 2, he was doubled it up to 6. And then last week versus Washington, 5. And I know it's not a great, matchup on paper with Carolina. They're technically giving up the 23rd lowest points to the safety position, but I'm taking that with a little bit of a grain of salt because Andy Dalton, that was his first week as the quarterback, and those week 1 and week 2 were not with Dalton. That was with Bryce Young. So I think it's a misleading stat there. And I'm just going to go history on this one with the plus odds. So I don't call this one a shoe-in, but I am going to go out there and take a risk. So Vonn Bell, he's done it the first 3 weeks. Why not make it 4 for 4 for those plus odds? So once again, Vonn Bell over 2.5 assists plus 140. Axton, back to you, brother.
Vonn Bell is usually one of those guys that has a pretty solid floor in terms of just tackle production. He kind of always has. It's not been the highest floor, like an elite level floor, but just somebody who really doesn't go under 4 or 5 tackles a week. I mean, somebody who's just pretty steady Eddie.
And it's a revenge game. He gets a revenge game too.
There's a narrative, absolutely. So, I mean, and honestly, I would argue history shows that over. I would say these revenge games probably there's some sort of merit behind that. These guys have a little bit extra to fight for in games like this. So, yeah, I like that. And the books were kind of being nice to us this week, giving us a lot of 2.5 assisted tackle marks. So I really like when we can hop on some good value here at plus 115. Here for Vonn Bell. So maybe the books know something we don't, because there was an awful lot of 2.5 tackle marks, and you and I jumped on a bunch of them. Matter of fact, my next pick here also plus money at plus 100. I just checked the books, and it must have jumped up a little bit from when we checked a little earlier. But I got Budda Baker over 2.5 assisted tackles this week at plus 100, and I had to do double takes seeing all these 2.5 assisted tackle marks for such elite and just sheer stud defensive players. Budda Baker has he achieved this in weeks 1 and 3, not in week 2. Unfortunately, I'm talking about stud players and this low tackle mark. But let's talk about week 2 against the LA Rams. This game was over by halftime. I mean, it was a pretty specific situation where this game just got out of hand. And I think that kind of plays into everything else because I know I was putting money on Kaiser White, and he got 7 tackles by halftime, and that number didn't move. So, there's obviously something greater at play there. You can't really account for things like that. But just the fact that his floor this year has been like 7 tackles total, I feel really good about Budda Baker being able to get this 2.5 or I guess 3 assisted tackle mark, considering that that's kind of how he plays. His tackles are just kind of split. He's got a nose for the ball and he can get those solos, but he's not one of those guys that's just out here getting 8 solos a game or 7 solos a game and like 1 or 2 assisted. It's been a pretty clean split for the most part, except for, like I say, a one-off game against the Rams earlier this year. But I don't anticipate that to be the case here with Washington because we're looking at an offense that's young and led by a rookie quarterback who's kind of just getting his feet wet to the speed of the NFL. But each week this offense has kind of picked up the pace a little bit and been more and more successful. So you've seen longer drives and you've seen opposing defenses stay on the field a little bit longer. So I think this game is going to be maybe a little bit more higher scoring than who am I kidding? Neither one of these defenses are great. This is probably going to be a high scoring game. I imagine a lot of successful drives. Defenses are going to be on the field probably about the same on either side. I think this thing is just going to kind of go back and forth. And like I say, Washington let Dax Hill and Vonn Bell. Vonn Bell achieved this last week, and then Whitehead and Winfield got it both in week 1 as well. So I really like the odds for Budda Baker to get over 2.5, a measly 2.5 assisted tackle mark this week against the Washington Commanders. So that will be, let's see. I think we got a couple more. We've got a couple more, and then we've got a special one here kind of at the end. But those are our first 3. But before we get into our next few and wrap this thing up, I'm going to let Johnny tell you a little bit about one of our sponsors.
So right now, our website, idpplus.com, we are having a subscription promo right now. So start your season off right with an IDP Plus subscription. Get 20% off any subscription for a limited time with the promo code PROPS and get access to our tools, data, IDP articles, weekly finishes, and don't miss out on our subscriber Discord. So once again, go to our new website at idpplus.com and put /membership. It'll take you straight to the pages I'm talking about here. And then when you check out, use the promo code PROPS and you will get 20% off site-wide on all those accommodations I had mentioned. So check out our website nonetheless and become a member, become subscribed, and get all this great information from not only me and Axton, but everybody else from the team. A lot of good betting content, a lot of good fantasy content. So don't be missing out. Get yours today. And then I'll roll right into my next pick, Axton, and that is my boy, Quentin Lake. You know I'm in Pittsburgh. You know that's Carnell Lake's son. And you know he's been balling so far this NFL season. Every game he's played so far has been a double-digit tackle performance. I understand that, even though I'm not going to go with the combined route here, it's been looking juicy. It's steep, the odds for combined tackles. I'm going to look more so at just the assists here. So his over-under is 2.5. I'm going to take the over for -125. Listen, it's good odds. He's made good on this bet 3 out of 3 games so far. He had San Francisco, a top 10 matchup last week, got 4 assists. This week, Quentin Lake, who is a 100% player, absolutely played every down so far, kind of in a slot hybrid safety role. Now he gets Chicago, technically on paper, a better matchup to safeties. So I think this is going to roll into a 4 for 4. He's had 14 assists throughout these first 4 games, almost averaging 5 a game. So get it while the getting's good with Quentin Lake. This is a good matchup. He's just been rolling right now. So let's just not mess with what's been working. I think it's good odds here. If it was 175, 180, something like that, I'm probably not going to be spending talking about it much time. But 125 is great odds here. So just keep it rolling out right now. It's working. Quentin Lake, best of luck, my brother.
Yeah, I like that one. Again, 10 tackles each week minimum. And kind of one of those guys that I mentioned earlier that just kind of tends to get the splits when it comes to solo and assisted. He's pretty evenly split. He's not just a high solo getter, a high assist getter. He's pretty well right around 6 and 4, 5 and 5. You know what I mean? Kind of pretty close one way or another. So for him to have a 2.5 assisted tackle mark, again, they were just throwing out 2.5 assisted tackle lines to all these stud players like it was candy. So we're out here snatching them up. Hopefully, again, like I mentioned earlier, hopefully the books don't have the edge on us. But I really like our odds this week. We've got a lot of good plays, and Quentin Lake playing against the Philadelphia Eagles, who yes, might be without a couple of their playmakers, AJ Brown and Devonta Smith, but this team's well coached. They're going to push the ball down the field. They're going to sustain drives. They've got Saquon Barkley behind one of the best offensive lines in the league. Regardless of whether they have their 2 studs, I'm not going to come out here and say they're just going to blow this team out of the water, but don't count this offense out just because two studs are down. These drives are going to keep going, and I imagine I think you're going to be surprised even by the Rams offense probably being able to sustain drives longer than what we thought after they came out and beat the 49ers last week. They're going to be fired up and ready to play. So again, I think this is kind of a sneaky one where things could go back and forth, and Quentin Lake just being around the action and having those healthy splits. I like this 2.5 tackle mark. My last one here is going to be for Nick Cross to get over 6.5 total tackles. I put assisted on my doc here, but it was actually at that was the total tackle mark at 6.5. So this is kind of like the Quentin Lake deal, but the total tackle mark was quite a bit lower. I think Quentin was probably 7 or 8.5. But Nick Cross is kind of in the same breath, another guy who's got 10 tackles minimum each of the first 3 weeks, playing for an Indianapolis Colts defense who's kind of banged up in terms of rush defense. So so far this year, a lot of those rushes have kind of slipped to the second and third levels of the field. And then you also consider the fact that Nick Cross is a box safety. He's already playing up around the line of scrimmage often enough where you're seeing him get these 10 tackle weeks regularly. And I mean, if you just look at this Colts defense, just the middle of the field balls out week in and week out. You see EJ Speed and Zaire Franklin each getting 10 tackles a week. And I think that just kind of alludes to the lack of rush defense they have up on that front. They're pretty banged up with DeForest Buckner going down. Kwity Paye went down last week, and I'm pretty sure Leatu Latu's got some sort of lingering injury he might be playing through right now as well. So that defensive line is just shattered right now, and they're just leaking running backs are just leaking through and falling right into these linebackers and Nick Cross's hands each and every week. So let's see, who does Indianapolis play? I think they play the Steelers. Is that right?
Yes, you're correct.
I think they play the Steelers this week. So the Steelers, I mean, you don't typically associate just your average safety with being productive, when you're playing a game against a team that runs the ball a lot. But again, box safety, guy that's playing around the line of scrimmage. When you have a team that runs the ball a lot, the ball is going to be around the line of scrimmage a lot. So Nick Cross is just going to have so many opportunities to get tackles in this one, with Najee Harris probably getting an extra few touches. Cordell Patterson, I imagine, is going to be involved as well, with Jalen Warren going down. So I think this is a great matchup for Nick Cross to really carry on his streak of 10 plus tackles, and 6.5 is nothing compared to what he's put up this week. I think this ought to be a good week for him to keep things rolling. So at -125, I think this is a pretty solid play for us this week. That's going to be our original 4 that we've been doing every week, but due to Johnny's good streak last week, he got us some real momentum going into this week with a perfect 4 for 4. He wanted to go ahead and give you guys a little bonus play this week, something he felt really good about, and just something a little extra fun to give you guys. So why don't you tell him a little bit about what you got?
Yeah, so a lot of times, I had a good week. I went 4 for 4. Wendy's, call me Mr. Wendy's 4 for 4 deal. But listen, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to go reach for the stars now. Let's stay modest here. I take pride in doing well at this, so I'm just going to stay safe here. And I think the safest pick of the week that I had, based off my research, is something that's happened the last 12 games. So Jessie Bates right now is his solo marker is at 3.5, and I'm going to tell you to take the over. Even though it's 166, I'm not recommending like putting $50 as a single. Maybe you throw a unit on it if you're a singles type of better. But I think this is better for a parlay. You take your chances. You want to throw a touchdown, get juice odds. Add Jessie Bates to it. Just sprinkle it into a couple of your parlays, and I think it's going to hedge your odds a little bit, make it for a nicer payout. Jessie Bates, you would have to go all the way back when he played the Tennessee Titans in 2023 last year in Week 8. Was the last time he had 3 solo tackles, and that was the last time that this 4 or more did not hit. So the last 12 games, going back to 2023, Jessie Bates, in the first 3 games, he's had 6 in Week 1, 7 solos in Week 2, 4. He just made the marker last week against Kansas City, so maybe that's why Vegas is throwing this out there. But this is one of the top safeties in the league. This is an in-division matchup versus New Orleans. Maybe Olave is ruled out with that tight hamstring, and that would kind of throw a wrench in things. But as it is, even if Olave's out, maybe that means New Orleans is down and they got to throw the ball more. Just the way that these in-division games, when you watch a game like Atlanta versus the Saints, to me, it's always like kind of a bloodbath. And, I expect Jessie Bates to be a front runner making tackles. And it's nothing crazy. It's just 4 solo tackles, something he's done the last 12 games. So, again, Jessie Bates is a safe play here. I think at over 3.5 solos for -166 odds. Again, if you want to do it as a rocket as a single, that's fine. That works too. But you're really going to get good odds when you parlay that. I'd recommend a 2 to 3 leg parlay with whatever you're feeling, whatever you know best. But this is what I know best. So, hopefully we kick off with another nice week here, and Jessie Bates is going to spearhead this, our good picks this week for us. So Jessie Bates, 3.5 solos over for -166. Axton, back to you, brother.
I think that's a good way to wrap up the show, my man. Jessie Bates has a nose for the football, and year after year, this guy just consistently gets you 5+ tackles a game, week in and week out. rarely ever even matters the matchup. The guy's just always around the ball, and the fact that they're giving us 3.5 solo tackle marker, considering, like you said, the fact that he's done it 12 games in a row. This is a no-brainer smash play for us, and I do like that. Putting it in a parlay, that's something that you kind of feel like is a good anchor play, something you can pair with something else to kind of expand your odds a little bit and feel really good about one of your legs hitting. Maybe you take a little bit more of a risk with that other leg and expand those odds. Have a little fun with this stuff. That's kind of what we're here for, is to kind of make your all's football weekend a little bit more fun, give you a little bit extra to bet on, a little bit extra to play for. But considering everything and what we're doing, and you guys joining us every week, let's remember to be responsible. Set limits for yourself. Don't overdo it. Don't bet the house on anything like this. This is all for fun. We're just here, just hoping to help you win a couple of bets, maybe buy your significant other dinner or a date or something like that on any given week. This is all in good fun, so let's be responsible and be smart with it, and let's see how we can fare this week. I feel pretty good about it. So thanks everyone again for joining us for week 4 of the IDP Plus Defensive Props podcast. Give us a comment. Let us know if you tail any, ask questions. I'm sure we've got all kinds of alternates we can give you guys. So, chat it up with us. We will interact and we'll hop in the comments with you, and let's make some money this week. So good luck, everyone.
Thank you for watching the IDP Plus YouTube network. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Be sure to tap the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.